So I graded this one a B+. I think it was a very good trade for the Sixers. Maybe not as great as some Philadelphia fans are seeing it. Probably not the best trade of his tenure. I'd still go with getting 2 first-round picks, 2 lottery picks for Drew Holiday, and then the number 10 Elfrid Payton for Dario Saric swap, where you got a first-round pick out of moving down 2 spots. Those, to me, better value plays, but certainly a win for the Sixers.
Yeah, and obviously they get a shooter in Stauskas who, a lot of people liked him in the draft last year. What was the issues with him in Sacramento that they were willing to give up on the number 8 overall pick in the draft from just a year ago?
Well, he didn't shoot. First off, he made 32% of his threes and about 40% of his two-point attempts, which really is not commensurate with his ability as a shooter. And, my theory, having watched a fair bit of him, I saw the Kings as much as almost any team in the league out here on the West Coast, is that, he played such short minutes and was in and out of the rotation because he was struggling defensively, that affected his confidence on offense. So, I think the hope for Philadelphia is that you get him out there for longer periods of time where his shooting is so important for a team that doesn't have much of it, and he'll play more to what we expected coming out of college.
You also see the first-round pick they got. They also got the swap opportunity for 2 other drafts. Is that almost a bigger part of this deal, or do you like the fact that they got Stauskas and Landry and Thompson?
To me, I think the picks are the more valuable piece of it right now. I mean, Stauskas, if he really develops, if he gets up to speed defensively and starts shooting the ball, becomes a 40% three-point shooter, then that does take this trade from good to great in that case. But they also got, like you say, very valuable draft picks. The swaps give them an opportunity where you could move up and. We haven't heard at this point that there's any protection. So if Sacramento misses out on the playoffs, I don't think they're likely to be a playoff team the next couple seasons. They jump into the top 3, and you could get that pick for Philly even if you don't win the lottery yourself.
Why does Sacramento make this deal?
The million-dollar question. They obviously want to be aggressive in free agency. There's been a lot of talk about them making a big offer to Wesley Matthews, Rajon Rondo, another guy. They could have probably gotten Rondo with their cap space. They had about $8 million before this trade, but this allows them to potentially get both of those guys and try to improve a lot right away. They're kind of the opposite of Philadelphia. It's a fitting trade in that regard because they're really trying to shortcut the rebuilding process, do it through free agency instead of the draft, while you see the Sixers being very patient and accumulating young talent and then striking eventually in free agency.
Kevin Pelton, ESPN.com, NBA insider. The Sixers get Stauskas, Thompson, Landry, and a couple of picks here. And as you mentioned, why would the Kings do this here? So what does this mean for the Sixers now and their quote-unquote plan? How do you read into what they did last night?
Well, I don't think it changes things dramatically. The one interesting thing is, I think this could probably be more relevant in 2016-17 than next year is, if you project that the Kings are not going to be very good, then, potentially you could start ramping up and still feel like you've got a good chance at getting a lottery pick or a high lottery pick because of the fact that you've got this ability to swap picks with them. So that's a nice benefit of it here. It's kind of similar to Denver is dealing with this kind of situation right now because they have the ability next year to swap picks with the Knicks. So if New York doesn't land any free agents, which it doesn't look like they're going to do, the Nuggets, should they just hang on to their veterans and try to win as many games as possible because odds are they're going to get a lottery pick either way? I think that's the kind of scenario where it could have an impact.
Is this a spot for Nick Stauskas where maybe he can be a better fit?
I mean, it's a great opportunity because he's going to play. You're going to get that opportunity here in Philadelphia. And he really hung his head a lot of last season. He struggled to find, the right balance between being aggressive offensively and then taking bad shots sometimes when he was too aggressive. So, he'll have a chance to play through that. I'm a little bit skeptical, but he's so young and talented that certainly there's a chance for him to develop into a useful piece.
Yeah, and then obviously the Sixers now with 7 picks in the first round over the next 3 years, including potentially 4 of the top 16 next year. If everything goes their way, how would you grade out now Sam Hinkie after the 3 drafts he's had and obviously his first couple of days here in free agency making this deal?
Well, I think the big thing is, not to get too high or too low on this rebuilding process. along the way. And, a week ago at the draft, when they end up drafting Okafor and D'Angelo Russell goes second to the Lakers, everyone was so down, oh, this isn't working, it's a failure, it's going to take forever. And then now all of a sudden, a week later, pull off this trade and everybody's thrilled again. So, the truth is probably somewhere in between. But I like the idea of, not shortcutting things, of being patient with this process, which they're doing. And the other aspect of this we haven't talked about, that maybe the biggest news of the last 24 hours wasn't even this trade. It's that the Lakers look like they may not come out of this free agency with any marquee players.
Right, which means the Sixers are tied to that other that Lakers pick as one of the picks there. And obviously, if the Kings gambled and dealt off everything to clear out space and they don't get anything, that would be a good thing for Philadelphia too.
Absolutely, yeah. So Rudy against the California teams in free agency.
No doubt. Kevin Pelton with us here. Obviously, some other things happened today, and one of the big things we're still waiting for is LaMarcus Aldridge, who I guess is going to give the Lakers another chance. That would be bad news for Philadelphia.
Yeah, not great news that he scheduled a second meeting with them. Obviously, if he's willing to spend his time and postpone this decision, he's got a certain degree of interest in signing with the Lakers, although it's still tough to say what they're going to tell him about their on-court plans in this new meeting that is really going to win him over, because there's a lot of uncertainty about where the Lakers are going to be down the road. They've basically tied their fortunes to signing marquee free agents. Outside of that, there's just not a lot on the roster, even with D'Angelo Russell now in the mix.
Kevin, in your opinion, is this a move that just falls in Henke's lap? Does he seek this out? Does he feel that Divac is weak? How does this move come about?
Well, I like the point that Danny LaRue of Real GM made on the Dunked On Basketball podcast today, that one of the things about the Sixers strategy and the fact that they've had so much cap space over time is they're kind of the first place people look when they need to move salary. They know, hey, this is a team that's going to be interested in taking on our dead salary, and as long as we're willing to give them some picks in return. So I think that probably is the way this got initiated, but always a smart strategy to deal with the rookie GM and the maverick owner who continues trying to desperately pursue win-now moves, whatever the cost.
It looks like Henke found a team at a weak moment last night and really jumped on them. I mean, do they make this deal even without the players? I mean, if you just get the picks, they totally win this deal too, don't they?
Without Stauskas?
Right. If they take the players out and just get the first-round pick and the swapping rights, they still completely fleeced them in this deal. Yeah,
I would say so. I mean, I think that that's pretty good value given the general market for dumping salary. I mean, they took the Sixers took on JaVale McGee last year at the trade deadline, and he has a little bit more on-court value in theory, and a little bit less left on his deal than Jason Thompson and Carl Landry, but got the one first-round pick that's top 20 protected for that. So when you compare it to that, a pretty good haul. But this was a remarkable amount of salary, really only comparable to when Golden State dumped Andres Biedrins, Richard Jefferson, and Brandon Rush so that they could sign Andre Iguodala a few years ago.
All right, that's Stauskas, Landry, Thompson, first-round pick, and the swap rights in two other drafts going to the Sixers. And Arturs Gudaitis and Luka Mitrovic are heading to Sacramento. That's the deal Sam Henke pulls off last night. Kevin Pelton over at ESPN.com. You gave the Sixers a B+. I believe the Kings got a F.
That is the case, which we reviewed afterwards, and turns out may have been the first F I've given in the 2.5 years I've been at ESPN.
All right, Kevin, thanks for jumping on, man.
All right, thanks for having me.